we can learn a lot about the focus of the tests of our lives from the life of Job. What two primary arenas of life did Satan attack? What we have and who we are. The tests that we will encounter in life will center around those things. Now, John, in his first letter, adds a little bit to this. All that's in the world is what? The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and then the pride of life. Okay? That is the substance of what earthly living encompasses. Okay? Those were the values by which Satan lived. Those were the values that he tried to invest in God's kingdom, and God cast him out. And what he did is he came down to earth and he invested those things into this place because he got Adam and Eve to buy into the lie. Okay? But what I want you to see is that those are things, that's the investment that Satan has brought into this world. The living for what we have and our stuff and and who we are as ourselves. Those are things that Satan has invested in this world because that's his value system. Me being at the center. Me being the one who is the focus. What did it say that he wanted to do? He said, I will rise up. I will sit on the throne of God. I will take God's place. It's thought by some that he was the worship leader of heaven, and how that all the praise of God flowed through him, and that he didn't want that to go to God. He wanted to be the one who received the worship that was offered to God. And so there comes these values of Satan's own heart that are invested into the world, and it has corrupted the world's thinking. Values that conflict with the sacrifice, the surrender, and the service that mark the kingdom of God. Because those are the things that mark God's kingdom. Sacrifice, surrender, and service. And Job raises the question for us of why do we serve God? Why do we serve Him? Why am I a Christian? Can I pose that to you? Why are you a Christian? Would you say, I am a Christian because it raises the quality of my life?
The only peace and the only joy in this world comes from Christ.
Okay. Anybody else?
The fact that He has a plan for my life, and that as I surrender to that plan, I know things are going to turn out okay.
Here's what I want you to see with me. Every one of those reasons that you offered ties into a value system of this world, of what I get.
That's true.
Okay? How I somehow am benefited by this. Folks, we serve God because He is God. And we are not. All the things that you said are true. But all of those are the extensions of God's grace into our lives.
Yes.
Okay? True. Why do I serve God? Because He the boss. Okay? He is God. And when I recognize Him in that place, then all the priorities of my life begin to fall into appropriate order. Okay? And while to offer all of the wonderful suggestions that you guys have offered, they're fine, and there are things that appeal to us, and they appeal to us at different stages and times in our lives. When I have no peace, He comes to me as peace. When I have no order, He comes to me as order. Okay? But ultimately, if I don't come to grips with the fact that He is God and I am His to do with as He chooses, then I miss the point. The struggle that we have when we end up in some of the tests that we find ourselves, we struggle with allowing God to be God. We struggle with letting Him have the last word. Or, as you said, Kim, being the potter who says, I'm going to invest this in you, and you will be placed in a place where people will see you, and generations from now, they will acclaim that as a masterpiece of art. And this one will become a piece of pottery that's daily used and gets cracked and gets buried under layers and layers of sediment, and may, at some distant point, be unearthed by an archaeologist.
Or turn back to dust.
Who will say, oh yes, this is from such and such period, and they did this and they did that and they did. And I would submit to you that Job's response here, Job's ability, now we know, he has his problems as time goes on, but he shows us something here about the surrendered life. He shows us something about the person who is willing to acknowledge God in that ultimate kind of sense. Okay? That in all of this, Job did not charge God foolishly. And, by the way, this whole discussion about who's God, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Okay? That there is an ultimate appeal to God for who He is, apart from anything else He gives us. I want you to see how unsanitized Job's worship is. I want you to see, it isn't pretty.
No.
It isn't pretty.
Desperate.
It is. It is. And it, folks, it rises out of this grasp of who God is. And who I am in contrast to Him. And without decrying anything that we do today, I wish we could recapture this spirit of worship. I'm not ready to give up my keyboard. I'm not ready to give up my drums. I'm not suggesting, I don't think there is nothing holy about going back and looking like that. That is not going to get us in the presence of God.
Amen.
What made the difference here for Job is he recognized who God was, and he put himself before the throne of God, and he worshipped.
Yes. That was brilliant.
And transcends.
Yeah.
Transcends what everything that he had. Everything that he had. See, the only way that we can let stuff like that go is if it never had us in the first place. Can I say that to you again?
Yes, please.
The only way we can let stuff like that go is if it never had us in the first place.
All right.
See, Job didn't have to let that stuff go. There was something about his relationship with God that he had already let it go. And now when it comes to a place of surrender, he's already surrendered. See, that's this issue of who God is, folks. See, the surrender is already there. I don't have to come to a place. Job had already surrendered. Job had already entered into that kind of relationship with God. And so what we see here came out of that byproduct. Job maintained his integrity. We know that the idea of integrity is that we're the same on the outside, on the inside, that we appear to be on the outside. It's the idea of wholeness. The mathematical term integer, which means whole numbers, not fractionalized numbers, comes from the word integrity. It's a whole. Okay. I want us to close though with, because in chapter 3, Job begins to speak. His buddies have come. And as I'm looking at this, I really do think his friends, they say some really crummy stuff. But you know what? These guys really cared for Job.
Yes, they did.
They really cared. They came from a long way.
And they did.
They came from a long way. They came to sit with Job. They came to sympathize with him. And anytime you sit with somebody in the dirt for 7 days and don't say a word, that's commitment. Okay? That's commitment. They really did love Job. Look at the last 2 verses of chapter 3, and we're going to stop here tonight. Because these are some of the most quoted verses out of the book of Job. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. What do you think that is?
That God would desert it.
Yes.
That's just what I read.
Yes. When you hang all that you are out on one person, when you say to yourself, this is the end all and the be all for my life. The question that has to be addressed is, and what happens if you're wrong? What happens if you're wrong? And again, doesn't it come back to this whole discussion of judging God? When stuff starts to happen in our lives and we begin to question who God is, what He's going to do in our lives, we don't question Him, especially if you've been a Christian for a while. You don't question the fact that God is the creator and all the biblical things. What we question is, God, are you going to be that for me? Are you going to be the person that I believed you to be for me in my life? Okay? And as we go on and read through Job, what is it that troubles him the most? God, I did what you told me to do, and I hung myself out on what you said was true. And now everything, it seems, that I believed in has fallen flat in front of me. Where are you? Where are you? And that is the question that all of us have to come to grips with. Whether you're in the church or whether you're out of the church. Because the question we have, the person who has not embraced Christianity yet has to come to grips with the declarations of who Jesus says He is and who the Scriptures say God is. And if that's true, then all the other questions that spin off of that have to bow to the truth of the original statement, and that is, God is who He says He is. Okay? That's why people like the Hebrews can say, it's not a big deal for us to worry, to think about bowing down to your image, Nebuchadnezzar. That's no big deal. We've already made up our minds. See, they came to that same place. They had already, just like Job, they had already made their decision. They didn't come to the crisis and then try to figure out how they're going to handle it. They had settled who God is, and they had ordered their lives accordingly. Okay? And that is what we see touched upon in Job's life. God, you are God. And what I can't get is, why is this happening to me like it is?